and concisely. And once you learn how to do that, then you can bring in all the stakeholders and you can get into programs that'll help you and train you on how to build it. But that first step is you have to design a business model that is desirable.
When I initially moved back to Pensacola, I had a meeting with Lloyd. Lloyd invited me for breakfast and I was telling him, man, I still have an idea for the entertainment industry. This is what I wanted to do. He was like, all right, I got Startup on the Blocks. So I need you to start coming to Startup on the Blocks and get a little more information on how to work through the tech ecosystem and take your idea and we'll get you where you need to go. My company is called The Know, is an app that is streamlining business for the entertainment industry. Yeah, so if you're a musician, what you would do is pretty much jump on the platform, you'll create a profile, but the way we created the profile is pretty much a cleaner way. So now if they want more information about you, you'll connect your social media platforms, your streaming platforms, and that way they can go directly to it. What we also have included is your calendar. So pretty much you can set your days, you can set your price for your days and automate your booking. So initially talking to Lloyd, my idea was all here, it was there, it was over here, it was over there. It was like, all right, Quinn, I get it. You got a lot that you want to do, but we need you to bring it in just a little bit and then work on your pitch, your story, and how you're going to bring it full circle to get people to understand what you're trying to create.
Most of the programs here wasn't inclusive, and so we said we'll focus on helping founders of color. We also start at the beginning of the thing, at the idea stage, whereas a lot of the programs you see here locally, they start after you're up, and that's not very efficient unless if you don't have a lot of money, you can't recover from your mistakes. And the lean startup system, it actually helps you make mistakes faster before you spend a lot of money. You don't actually start building anything until you got customer buy-in.
There was a need for small businesses to bring brand awareness to their business. I see there's a lot of makers and bakers that they're making all of these goodies and these products, but they can't market it, they can't sell it at the same time, and there needs to be kind of that middleman, that middle person to help bring economic growth to some of the small businesses in Pensacola. So Taste of Pensacola, I came up with that idea during the pandemic when I saw things at that time that Amazon couldn't fulfill. They didn't even have those products, but the local people in the community, they did. And so there was a ton of people coming out saying, hey, I make masks. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. All the local people here that are just as talented that can actually make those products. And so I wanted to kind of showcase who they were. So with Taste of Pensacola, our income streams, we have several of them. We have the corporate America, we do corporate gifting, just regular consumers, different Pensacola natives that don't live here that want to purchase our boxes, like a taste of weddings, distribution. So we also do bulk sales. So for a private airline, if they want some local snacks and goodies on their passenger flights, they will come to Taste of Pensacola and we will source their vendors here locally. And we'll give a small business owner an opportunity to have reoccurring monthly sales. I've always had a really big vision for Taste of Pensacola. I knew that it could go beyond just local. I know that maybe other communities could possibly use the same platform that I'm trying to build. And I always have these big visions, but I never know how to even get there. Where do I start? I know it's more than, there's a lot of technical things behind it. I know there's a lot of research, but that connection, I never had it until, thankfully, I met and was introduced to Startups on the Blocks and was able to just learn more about how to grow it in terms of data. Things I just never thought about, framework, words like traction. There's a lot of things that I just did not know about and language that I need to know in order to get funding for my business. There's just a lot that I didn't know.
I would go to the stores and look online. They didn't have a wide variety of natural hair products about 8 years ago. And the ones that they did have, the ingredients, it would say that they were all natural. And when I would research the ingredients, a lot of the ingredients were not natural. I make everything, my shampoo, conditioner, I have an oil that I make, and I have 2 different separate butters. Like I had some people who were completely bald and grew their hair. It's about giving women their confidence back in their hair. I have this salon and then I have a second salon, and I have my products in about 5 beauty supply stores. So I need a manufacturer to keep up with the demand at this point. Startup on the Blocks has helped my business grow. Send me to different people. I'm able to do different pitch competitions to apply for grants in the community for small businesses. Lloyd's a really good person to connect with. He has a lot of resources here in the community that can help small businesses grow. If you have a product out there and you're trying to go big time, he's the person that you would want to meet with.
So it's really important to have some type of support because 9 times out of 10, most founders start out on their own. And to have somebody that has an idea of how the ecosystem works and is able to tap into other resources and bring back to the community, and that pretty much has encountered some of the roadblocks or going through the same roadblocks that we're currently going through and understands where you're at, your culture and how you respond to things, is a big help because you don't really have too many people that have access to what we have access to here in the community. And a lot of people believe that you have to leave and go to bigger cities to do the things that we're doing here. But I mean, it's one thing to have exposure, but you have to actually know it's here in the community in order to take advantage of the resources. So I get approached and I talk to friends all the time that wants to either start an idea or hear that I'm actually doing the app and wants to know more information about how are you doing it or what's the process, what's the path. I'm like, man, we have somebody here, Start Up on the Blocks, Lloyd Richard. And Lloyd is here, he's a great resource to the community and to founders that's trying to learn the ecosystem. So join Start Up on the Blocks.
Hey, Adrian, how are you?
Hey, what's going on, Lloyd? That was a good video, actually. I was like, man, is there a part 2?
Yeah, it's time for part 2 and 3. You know, like we got to get some. We've been working with so many founders. We got to get some testimonial videos, some more testimonial videos up there. But I'm glad you enjoyed it. One of our founders hooked us up with that, so that was really great. Yeah.
No, that's cool. That's awesome.
Yes. So we glad to have you here today, and I'm going to start off, recognizing our sponsors and partners, and we can't do this without those sponsors and partners, and so that's one of the keys to kind of being able to grow and getting the stuff that the founders actually need, all the resources and stuff like that. But give a big shout out to Blacks in Technology Foundation. I noticed Bit Miami started saying they like the fact that you're on tonight. So you're down in Miami, right?
I'm not in Miami. I'm north. I'm in Broward.
Okay.
I think you just say South Florida is good.
Yeah, South Florida. And I think Bit Miami is probably representing all of you all down there, because I'm not aware.
Yeah, I mean, when you're down here, if everybody says Miami, you just say yeah, because South Florida. To everybody outside of South Florida, Miami is just represented for that entire region. So yeah, you can just go with that.
Well, South Florida is good too, and also you down there, you're closer to our other sponsor, Florida Power and Light. They're one of our biggest sponsors. Yes, and so that are you familiar with the 35 Muse program they have down there?
I am actually. I was in an accelerator called 1909 a few years ago, up in Palm Beach, and one of the founders that I was in the cohort with, he actually got accepted to 35 Mules after 1909. Yeah, he was doing some deep sea hardware, and he got into the program. So yeah, I'm quite familiar. Yeah,
we had Danielle on a while back, and so somebody in the audience asked her, say, do you all work with nonprofits in that program as well? She said, we never have, but like if they got something that's scalable, we definitely would consider it. I about fell out of my chair.
Well, here's the thing though. Here's the thing though, Lloyd. Like OpenAI actually started as a nonprofit, right? Yeah, and then now it's a for-profit organization. That's why Elon is coming out to sue him now, saying, "Well, how could y'all do this? How can you say you were a nonprofit at the start and then just pivot and become a for-profit?" So. As long as the technology will scale, people will find a way to invest in it.
Oh, that's for sure. And I think that's the problem they ran into. It was costing them so much money to train that big AI thing that they had to get some more money. Yeah.
Capital intensive. Yeah.
Yeah. That was kind of what the deal there is. Yeah. And I met with one of just came from FPL. Northwest Florida Economic Symposium, and ran into uh, one of my sponsors there, and he said that they're ready to go to help fund another bunch of founders get to go through our training here in Florida, and so that was good news to get their continued support. Yes, yeah, and so Synapse was last week. Did you consider going to that?
No, kind of.
Were you familiar with it?
I'm actually not at all.
Okay, so Emerge Americas, you probably they do that on Miami Beach each year.
Yeah, I'm familiar with Emerge. I was at Emerge last year.
Yeah, and so so they have a startup kind of like showcase. They have a bunch of investors and they have some ecosystem organizations and so
Okay.
So Emerging America is probably coming up pretty soon. So it's definitely, I would say it's similar. But what I like about Emerging America is they focus on that startup showcase, and I really like that.
Have you ever been down here for Miami Tech Week, which started
No,
about 2 years ago?
no, I haven't. But I think one year it was close to the time frame as Emerge Americas. That would have been like maybe 2017 or 18 or something. I don't remember.
Oh no, it started Miami Tech Week, I believe, was 2 years ago.
Okay.
When the whole Twitter thing with Mayor Suarez was happening.
Okay.
And then the following year it was Miami Tech Week, but then it got extended to Miami Tech Month.
Okay.
And so now it's an entire month in April where we just startup events, lots happening down here. The ecosystem is kind of a buzz. And it's a good time to be down here. If you're raising funding, if you're a founder and you're raising funding, you want to be here during that month for sure.
That's I'm glad. I'm definitely excited that you mentioned that, because I think back then they were talking about they still were trying to get some Black tech stuff going, and so maybe I'm getting it confused, a little bit confused with that. But that's kind of what the deal is. That is, and those type things that you're mentioning, the Tech Week, Tech Month, I guess now you're saying that's what founders need to be participating. I'm glad you emphasized that. That's where you make those connections and get those.
Yeah, I think they got a big pitch competition as well. So there's usually, what I'll do is there's usually a Google sheet that ends up going around.
Okay.
With a lot of events. So what I'll do is when I grab that eventually in the next, let's say, couple of weeks, I'll shoot it through to you, Lloyd, and you can then sort of circulate that.
I will definitely do that. Yeah, that sounds really fantastic. And so we also have a couple of banks that's been supporting us when supporting pitch competitions and stuff like that. And Innisfree Hotel, they sponsored our first 5 pitch competitions. So we definitely indebted to them for kind of getting that stuff going. We work with both of the chambers up here and the Small Business Development Center. But what I like about, so the other thing I wanted to make sure you were aware of is this. You see that little green light bulb with the little star in it? That's our startup science partner, and that's a training platform that kind of prepares people for accelerator programs and for investors. And the guy who created that program, went through 12 exits, and he put everything he learned in that program. So they're available for founders. We offer that to founders to get access to that as well. And we were talking a little bit about the AI stuff, OpenAI. PitchBob, we partnered with them, I guess, earlier this year. And we're going to do some boot camps with that to help people get off the ground running a little bit faster. And we should be real soon announcing a new partnership with Make Startups, and that's going to be really fantastic. And just being able to offer more stuff to founders through these partnerships.
Did you say Make Startups?
Make Startups.
Oh, Make Startup. Okay, I got you.
Yeah. So they got this thing they call the Co-Founder OS, and it's an AI thing, but it's supposed to be all about measuring the work you do and with your founders and stuff like that. So that's going to be pretty neat. I'll get those guys on here hopefully before the end of the month, and so they can kind of share what that's all about. It's yeah, so definitely excited about that, and we're going to keep trying to get as many partnerships so we can kind of touch more founders out there to keep the ball rolling. Yeah, so why don't you take a minute or two to kind of introduce yourself and let us just a short introduction there.
No problems. Hey everybody, my name is Adrian. So I was just telling Lloyd before we got on backstage that at this point I've built probably close to about 30 different products, ranging from hardware, which is my background as a product engineer, electromechanical, then transitioned into tech about 5 years ago. I built multiple startups. During the pandemic, I built one of the first social audio networks, actually. We didn't get funding. We went through an accelerator, which was great. Clubhouse raised all the funding in the industry, and everybody got afraid to invest in anything else. But that was an amazing experience. And what I learned during that experience was social networks are an engineering feat of nature. They're extremely hard. But then over the years, I've just sharpened my product skills by either starting companies, doing startups, or working within startups as a VP of product, chief product officer. And at this point, my focus is just teaching people how to build product, especially founders, sharing that knowledge, whether it's through the bootcamp, and then we're sort of incubating a new AI startup. Well, at this point, let's call it a product, because I think people jump ahead and say startup before it's even a startup yet.
Right.
But we're building an AI product right now in the event space for attendees to connect and make that process quite seamless. So I'm super excited to be on here, Lori. Thanks for inviting me, and hopefully I can share some knowledge about how to build some amazing products.
That's fantastic. We're definitely excited, to have you on. We got a lot of founders out there trying to build products. So
yeah.
You're the man right now. I can tell you that.
Hey, what's funny? So I've got the story I tell during my second startup, Lloyd. So I wasn't a designer, right? I was a designer in sort of the physical product world, where I could design anything, engines, whatever. Yeah. And but I had a good eye for design, right? And during that process of bringing that mobile app to market, I got so frustrated because I couldn't afford a designer, right? And all the designs I would get from people were just really, I just didn't like them, right? Gotcha. So in the space of 2.5 weeks, I literally designed my prototype using Canva, right? Wow. It's not a design tool. I mean, it's probably not a UI UX design tool, but I made it work, right? Uh-huh. And if I show you the designs now, you'd be like, nah, you used Figma for that. No, it was in Canva. But then in 2 weeks, I went from Canva to Adobe XD, mastered it, saw the gaps, jumped on a Figma, learned to use Figma, designed the mobile app, and I'll show it to people and it'll be like, this is a seasoned design. I'm like, this is my first app, right? Yeah. And I always tell that story because as a founder, you never know where your innate skills lie. And doing a startup is always going to give you an opportunity to discover new and amazing things about yourself, right? Like, who knew I was a designer? Now I am. But if I didn't do that startup, I wouldn't know.
Yes, that's been, going on this journey. It's definitely an adventure. So we're glad to hear and glad to have you here to share some nuggets here. So we'll take a few minutes just to for any new people, just to kind of get them a little familiar with the startup on the Blocks program. But last year we had a really busy year. We did like 6 30-day business model design course and one 90-day launch program. So this year we're going to continue with our best practice thing like we're doing here. And next month we're going to have this Black Founders Innovation Summit to kind of help folks understand that approach for leveraging the innovation ecosystem and learning how to innovate on product. Yeah, so that's kind of what the deal is there. And we're going to definitely leverage AI this year to kind of help founders get off to a better start, do some some small boot camps and continue. Yeah, just yesterday, we're going to continue the like I said earlier, the Florida edition of the Black Founders Program, and we're also going to expand that nationwide. And yes, the summit will be both in person, and it'll be also streamed online. We just want to make sure we can reach as many people as we can there. Yeah, so there's a lot of opportunities, but one thing I want to emphasize, and Adrian, I need your help on this, the importance of kind of networking and connecting. I don't think the founders that are out there realize the importance of checking in on a weekly basis and networking with other founders. I need some support to kind of encourage these founders to kind of do that. Yeah, so what do you think? How did networking impact your journey?
I mean, the startup community is very big, but it's also very small.
Yes.
And same with the fundraising community, right? Ultimately, the founders in your network are going to be so the best analogy I have for this is startups are an individual race, but it's a team sport. And the founders you're building with are going to be your teammates, right?
Yes.
And ultimately your potential future co-founders as well. I can't tell you the amount of just founder catch-ups I've had where you're helping somebody else with their problem and suddenly you have a light bulb moment where you're like, oh, wow, I just explained what I need to do. Right, because it's easier to give advice. It's easier to tell somebody, oh, no, you're wasting time with that feature. And you go, wait a second, I think I have a feature like that. I probably don't need that. And so it's just the insights, right, which is important, but it's also the emotional side, right? Building a startup, especially if you're from our community, it's not something that's super common at this point. So a lot of times you're probably the only person in your social network or in real life social network that is doing something like this, or family. So it's really important to have other people in your network that you can talk to about the process. You can talk to about the journey, because this journey is going to throw some punches at you, right? You're going to have to make some hard decisions. And the worst thing that you can have in this process is I'm the only one going through this. Right? That is a super dark place to be. I think it's really important to have other people that you can confide in, you can be vulnerable with, because on the outside, you have to we're killing it. We're going fast, fund us, give us money, right? This is awesome. But behind the scenes, you're like, man, my co-founder just quit. he deleted the GitHub on the way out. And you're like, oh, what do we do now? Right? Yeah. So it's just really important to have people you can talk to as well. But I always recommend a strong founders network. And Lloyd, we haven't touched on this, but I also recommend it. I also recommend having a personal therapist as well, right?
Oh, okay.
Going through this game. Yeah, I'm definitely going to touch on the mental health aspect of things.
Yeah.
You definitely want to have somebody that understands what's going on in your head, that can give you insights, that is trained to do this in the process. Even if it's just once a month, once a quarter, you might be pushing it, but at least once a quarter, you want to check in with somebody, a professional.
Gotcha. Yeah. When I got started hard and heavy in this stuff, I stayed in the doghouse all the time with my wife.
Right, exactly.
But she's my best supporter, so I've joked about her a lot. But yeah, so we had an interesting chat last week on this chart right here, Adrian. So when it's good for a new founder or even a founder that's been out there for a while to kind of understand all these phases you have to go through, and to me, I think it provides some idea. Well, I'm at this step, I need to go to the next step. But if you don't have no idea where you're going, so I showed this slide last week, and Caleb, he gave a really good example of this. The way he explained a slide like this, and a lot of the programs. I'll just say this: a lot of the programs. This is one of the reasons why we started Startup on the Blocks, was a lot of the programs out there catch founders when they're support founders when they're 1, 2, 3 kind of stage, but. If you don't have the knowledge, you're never going to be able to get into those programs. And so we started working with founders, that maybe even just thinking about becoming a founder, so they can kind of learn the best practices before they hop in there. Another quick story was we do in partnership with SCI down here in Florida. They got into the MIT Venture Mentoring Service, and so when I asked the guy who was giving us the training, I said, what percentage of your founders, people you all mentor, have already have their business up and running? They may be at the 1, 2, or 3 stage. And he said over 50% of the people we mentor at MIT haven't even wrote the idea on a sheet of paper. And so he's literally saying we're training them before they even get close to starting their thing.
Yeah.
And that's what we need, is to help fill that knowledge gap. But what Caleb said last week, and he said that, take the Twin Towers, and he said people were frustrated when they, for years, they didn't see anything happening there. But he said that they were building the foundation, which was 3 football fields long down, and that's that 2 through 0. So all that work has to be done before you can actually come, so people can actually see what you're doing and what you're building.
Yeah. The one thing I'll add to that, Lloyd, is that I tend to not. So I've noticed this trend that happens, and this is something I picked up after working with founders, whether as a personal consultant or just my friends. There tends to be, and I definitely do agree that you're building the foundation of your startup, right? But there tends to be this idea that, like, okay, this is the idea. We're going to validate it. We're definitely going to find evidence that people want this, and we're going to build it. And they sort of double down in steps over time. But then the market changes.
Okay.
Right? Whilst you're doing all this validation, the market has shifted. Whether it's Bitcoin is now, skyrocketing and your project is becoming obsolete.
Yeah.
Because being a founder is so identity driven, a lot of times founders will still double down on that idea, right?
Yeah.
And I think as you're going through this process, it's super important to understand the concept of sunk cost, right? Saying that, yes, you might have validated for the last 6 months, and in 1 second, I mean, I saw on the news last week that Tyler Perry, after he saw OpenAI's new video model, was like, okay, let's stop construction on this $800 million studio that we're building right now, because we just saw some voodoo, right? And so what I would always say to people is that, look, at every one of these phases, just keep in mind that you got to have the kill switch and be okay to push it, right? You could have done all the problem statements in the world. You could have spoken to 20 customers, and you're just about to build the app. You finally got a developer and a designer, and then you get a signal from the market that you build this, it's a waste of time.
Yeah.
Right. You got to have the confidence. And that's why that I highly recommend therapy, because at that point, that's an emotional decision.
Yeah.
Right. You just don't want to jump to the next step because you're invested in it.
Right. Yeah. And so timing is everything. And that was one of the top reasons between success or failure for a business idea is timing. Yeah. So that's appreciate you sharing that. So I was telling you a little bit about the Lean Stack platform, and this is kind of the way Ash looks at it with this traction roadmap and trying to get to that product market fit between those 2 shades of pink there, and basically the data he shows that 80% of the startups never make it to that product market fit phase right there. And so that's a real challenging thing. So what he tries to do with his program is kind of make sure you got that good foundation there with that business model design. And that's kind of my philosophy too, is you kind of have to know the best practices and know when you need to pivot or whatever, but it's all customer or problem driven there. So, but that green and that gold there, that's really where we make sure founders design a scalable business model and sort of stress test that business model before they go out spending a year or two trying to get to this product market fit on a broken business model. Yeah. So it's just one other way to look at it. And I like this one too because it's got the milestones in there as well.
Let me see, from solution fit, solution customer fit, product market fit. Sometimes, this graph can be sort of backwards as well, just a little bit, where you hit product market fit, your app's kind of growing, but you haven't figured out a good pricing model yet or a good business model around it.
Yeah.
And you typically see that with B2C consumer products where we built the app, everybody loves it, and it's growing, but we're still broke. We haven't figured out a model around it yet. And that's something that's okay too, if you do have the resources to sustain that growth. A lot of social networks were built like that, grow it first and then monetize later. I don't think that works as well anymore. Just because the cost of acquiring customers is just so high. And you're using the social networks to do that. So that's just something to keep in mind as well.
Oh yeah. And that's the good. This is basically a 10x curve for traction, and also income as well.
No, it's good.
Ready. Got one more here, and so I was telling you about our partner, Startup Science, and they look at it. To me, this looks like a more traditional way to explain it, where you have an idea or vision, you develop a product, you go to market, you standardize your business processes, and then you optimize them, and then you can grow and get to the point of an exit. But it's just kind of good to see it from different perspectives and kind of know that it's a journey.
Lloyd, so how do you feel about, let me ask you this actually, how do you feel about, because what I tend to teach when I work with founders is to swap steps 2 and 3.
Okay.
Especially if they don't have the funding yet to build. So I tend to say, okay, just go to market first with a good mock-up, a good website, pretend the product has been built, run your marketing, your messaging, everything just as the product would be built, and then you build up a waiting list. Right? Yes. So now when you eventually do build the product, you have your first customers there waiting for you.
Yeah, and literally, like on this chart, it's exactly what you said. When you come out of this problem solution fit, you just got you got mock-ups or whatever, or a rough MVP, and then you go sell it. So you're literally saying it, but the deal is so I'm glad you said what you said. So this is what I discovered was, if in the ecosystem, the startup ecosystem, whether you're at the idea stage or at the exit stage, there are programs and in-kind services, out there to support you with the it could be pitch competitions, it could be free software, it could be free mentoring. And what my approach is leverage all these things because you're going to be losing money on your way to product market fit, and so you feel that gap with those in-kind services and pitch competition winning, but you can't get into that stuff if you can't pitch your business model clearly and concisely. The business model is the product, and so that's kind of what I discovered in my journey. I had the reason I formed my startup was I had got admitted to a program that was going to give me $25,000. I had already got over $100,000 from cloud service from Microsoft. You see what I'm saying? Yeah, and so
I think also people are. I mean, people are visual, right?
Yeah.
I've worked with founders where I'm busy with product specs and user journeys, and they start getting frustrated, and I'm like, okay, let's just get them a quick mock-up of this thing, and then they go, oh yeah, that's it, I love it. And so when you're pitching stuff, it's the same thing, right?
Yes.
1,000 words, one UI mock-up of what the app is going to look like and do, and people go, oh wow, okay, yeah, we understand now. here's 10 grand. Here's 20.
Fantastic. I'm 100% behind you on that. So I guess you got a question here from Charlene.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. You see it okay, or do you want me to go through it?
You can read it. You can read it out.
Okay. Yeah. It's basically, did you get started with a team or a partner? And that's the first question.
So, I'm assuming when you say partner, you're referring to like a studio or an agency to work with.
My
the
guess
first
is
thing
about a co-founder, she's talking about your team, your initial team that builds stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. That's just all network, really. I think you're gonna have to dig deep into your network and find people with talent that you somewhat know already. It's best if you kind of know them already, or you've seen some of their work that they've done. They're in the ecosystem. You pitch them on the idea, and they're interested to work with you, and then y'all get to work. If you don't have that, there's two ways you can go about it. There's a long method, which is go work at a startup, right? And then form some really good, close relationships there. And 9 times out of 10, you're probably going to come out of that with people that you're going to start a company with. That's the long way, right? That is if you don't have an idea right now and you're thinking about doing a startup in the future. But otherwise, the rest of it is just really networking, right? A nice place to go and find people to work with if you're looking for a technical co-founder, which is sort of the holy grail for non-technical founders, is go to hackathons, right? You have a skill, whether it's marketing or product or branding or project management, whatever. Even if you're not technical, join a hackathon team, hack with these guys. Because why? Because engineers that go to hackathons like building stuff, right? And if you pitch them on your idea, they might get interested. And hackathons are a really nice compressed time to form a good relationship with somebody or a team. You want to be out in the universities. You want to be going to the meetups. Tech meetups are awesome, but look for JavaScript meetups, right? Like where the engineers go hang out and talk shop, show up there. You might be the only marketing person, but make some new friends, figure out what they're doing, hang out with those folks, and eventually you'll find like a co-founder to work with. What doesn't work is just pitching people the first time you see them and you've heard that, hey, this person's an engineer, come work with me. Those stories always end up in disaster. So you always want to make sure you form some form of a relationship first before you start working with people.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice there, Adrian. Yeah, so I see Charlene, she's asking a lot of important questions here. And it is hard to kind of understand the process, but the whole idea with the reason why we use the Lean Stack platform is because what Ash is basically telling you, if you can pitch your business model clearly and concisely, you can recruit a co-founder. You can get into a program to provide you the resources. You can apply for in-kind services. And so this is one of the hardest messages I have with founders. And it's literally the challenge in getting co-founders and a team is because you haven't sold them on your business model. Why would somebody come work with you and they don't trust your business model?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a founder.
Another thing I would say here is to Charlene. So startups are a science, but they're also a bit of game theory, right? And oftentimes, what do people want to be a part of? They want to be a part of something that's moving already, right? So at every step of the way, when you're talking to somebody, co-founder, investor, ecosystem, checking in with Lloyd, it's got to seem like something's happening. There's got to be a beat to it, right? So even when you're pitching a co-founder, what you don't want to say is, oh my gosh, we've been frustrated. This app's not working. The last guy didn't really build it properly. And can you come help us? Right? They're going to be like, oh, well, I mean, if it's so great, why don't you have a long line of engineers wanting to join this team? Right? What you want to say is, I'm scheduled to pitch at Startup Grind. I'm scheduled to pitch at 1909. I'm doing the Lloyd Startups on the Block pitch competition soon. We're moving really fast right now. We're super excited. Potentially we're looking to raise $2 million for our first round. I'm talking to investors right now. I'm having conversations, and we just want to get this MVP done so we can get ahead of all this. That's very different. That's a very different explanation than, hey, I'm frustrated. Come help me build my startup, right? And people in this industry love things that are moving. So always seem like your wheels are turning and you're leaving without them, right? So they can jump on now or catch you when you're at the finish line. But, so it's an opportunity. You want to position yourself as an opportunity, which is really important.
Yeah, I really appreciate you sharing that, because what the ecosystem, it has to see you going from one stage to the next, and that's how you get your credibility.
Traction.
That's how you get in get in the program. So you literally have to follow that path, and that's why I showed all those milestones, all those phases, because if people can't see you moving, you're dead in the water. Moving is like credit, when you go into the bank to get a loan. And
yeah.
That's the best way I can describe it. And Charlene, I definitely appreciate you asking those questions, because a lot of times founders don't know and don't understand, or they may have heard you say it, but they didn't realize what you were saying. But the bottom line is, if you can pitch your business model clearly and concisely and do the things that Adrian was just saying, you're not going to have any problems getting in the programs. You're not going to have any problems recruiting co-founders. That's what people want to see. They don't want to see somebody sitting back waiting for something to happen. Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I'll give you a quick hack with getting engineers to work on your project, right? So Lloyd is probably going to agree to this. All engineers, we like to fix broken things, right? So if you can figure out how to use a no-code platform to build something janky, right? Just keep it in your mind. It's not the final platform. This is a recruiting tool, right? So when you're pitching an engineer and you're doing all this, hey, we're moving faster, and you show them something that looks like a mess, innately that engineer's brain kicks in and they want to fix. Say, oh no, that looks horrible. I can build that in a weekend. You go, really? And so try and get something up that, even if it doesn't really work well, it's really just a recruiting tool, right? Because it's really, really valuable.
I agree 100%. And I remember, when we first got started with the Startup on the Block thing, we used to leverage the startup, what do you call that? Startup school from Y Combinator, because they
I remember that.
A lot of amazing stuff. And I think it's pretty sure it's still available. But I remember this one lady, she had spent all her money in her startup, and then she had a little bit left, and so and her team had dissipated, and so but she went back to some of the customers they had and asked them what problem they need, and so they actually said they needed babysitting service, childcare services, and so she started keeping track of it. She didn't have any solutions, so she used texting, spreadsheets, and she showed that she was getting more and more customers, and after a couple of tries, she got in the Y Combinator. But she was able to show she was getting some traction. And the same problem with the co-founder. You have to, give the people a chance to work on something. It's like you have to date them for a little while. And just to see what they're capable of doing, just a little small project, and see how well you get along. But that's what it takes. But all this knowledge is out there, but you just have to engage, to kind of to move forward.
So there's a question from JD Smith before we jump on to Charlene's next question.
So where is JD? I missed JD.
JD's got a question about
JD. Okay, gotcha.
Important slide deck that should be in your pitch deck. So with this one, it really depends on the stage that you're at. You can imagine a Series A pitch deck is going to look very different from a seed, pre-seed, friends and family, which is just a conversation. But typically, I would say it's hard to say which one's the most important, but the vital ones, right? More important than just what slide is important in the pitch deck, JD, is does the story flow, right? So you have to tell a story. I was at a pitch competition recently, and this gentleman, great startup, but he came on and he quite literally just read, the problem is this is our solution, this is our customer, this is our traction. You always want to tell a story, right? You want to pull the viewer in, and your deck is just a visual representation of that story, right? So if the story is right, the deck will follow. You got to have a problem, some initial issue that somebody's having. Then you got to present how it's manifested in reality. Then you got to present your solution, talk about the customer. Then it's the product. How is it solving the problem? How do you make money? How do you plan on growing it? How are you acquiring customers, and who's building it? That's a story, right? Yeah. That's like almost, you can plot on the hero's cycle
journey.
So I would say those would be the critical, and that's depending on who you're talking to. Everybody requires something different. It's always good to look at, if you're talking to VCs, make sure you look at, they'll tell you on their websites, right? This is what we're looking for. And angels are mostly just relationship-based conversations. They're probably somebody that's interested in your space, so they have deeper knowledge of the space, or they just know you as a founder. So those are more conversational. But I would say always make sure you're telling a story and you have these key elements in the deck as well.
Yeah, I agree. Depending on the stage you had. And I've heard this story a few years back. A founder went into to talk to investors with one slide, and it was the traction slide.
Yeah, it's funny.
What more can I tell you?
yeah, it's like, and the thing is, right, like, don't show slides that are not strong. Keep those in the back, because there is a version of like smoke and mirrors when it comes to this, right? Mm-hmm. But there's a talk out there. I forgot his name, but he talks about like prototyping, and he was like, don't tell me a big story. Just give me a piece of paper with some checks on it, just stapled on it, right? So these are my customers, and this is what they're paying me. It's like, I don't care about the rest, right? Did somebody take out their credit card and give you money? All right, cool. Now we're on to something.
Gotcha. That's that traction. Yeah. Yeah. So what's Charlene asking here? Protecting your idea, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very tricky question because a lot of founders are usually cagey at the start when they're working on the ideas. There's a great article, I think, by Paul Graham from Y Combinator about this. And he's like, if ideas were valuable, you should be able to sell them. And that's like a mental model that just breaks the concept that ideas
are worth zero.
They're worth $0. And when you eventually get to the point where you want to tell people about it, most people are not going to care to listen. So tell everybody about it. Don't worry about anybody stealing anything, right? And I typically say, look, how nice would it be if somebody stole your idea, ran ahead, built it? Now they don't understand the assumptions that you've made in that process that you were trying to disprove or prove. Now they go ahead, build it, and you go, I knew web wasn't going to work, right? They just did it for me. That's awesome. Now we know we got to go to mobile, right? So it happens all the time. It's like, why do you do a competitor analysis? Because you're like, I want to see what is not working for these guys. So I wouldn't necessarily worry about that. A lot of times people get, I want to work with the founder. They want to work with me. They're like, hey, can I send you an NDA first? And I'm like, no. You can tell me about your idea, and we can talk about it. But I'm not going to sign an NDA because nobody's going to steal your stuff. So that's something. Unless you're working on some like deep tech where you need patents and all this stuff, then I would say potentially look at NDAs. But if it's just ideas and we don't have anything patent pending yet, or we don't have a proprietary system that we've built, I wouldn't worry about that, to be honest.
Yeah, and so a lot of times, most of the stuff that you see in a pitch competition or put on an application. There's nothing proprietary about that.
Just keep it light. Just keep it light.
Yeah. And so, and that's one of the challenges, with that, we being Black folks and folks stealing and taking stuff from us our whole life. And that's one of the mindset that holds founders back. And so you don't end up not getting the help you need, because if nobody knows what you're trying to build, how are you going to get some help to build it?
Nobody can help you. Nobody can help you. Nobody can help you.
Yeah. You should be able to answer that one.
Let me see. JD Smith. What's TapIn AI? Okay, so awesome, man. So TapIn started last year. I would host dinners. Lloyd, you got to come down, man. I host these private dinners in Miami for founders. So we meet up. Yeah, we meet up once a month. Just break bread, trying to find a Black-owned restaurant if we can. Eat there, build connections, this founder network thing that we're talking about. So we do that. And towards the end of the night, there's always this point where everybody's trying to exchange contact information. Hey, Lloyd, what's your LinkedIn? Adrian, what's your Instagram? And it's a 30-minute process, 10 to 12 people spending 30 minutes to exchange contact information. Okay, first time it happens, light bulb moment. It's like, okay, this is annoying. Afterwards, people will call me and be like, hey, I remember Lloyd's introduction. What does he do again? I'm like, oh, no, he runs this accelerator program. Okay, can I get his number? And I'm like, okay, so there's something here now. So it happens again for the second time. And now, obviously, my bunny ears are going up because I'm a product guy. I'm like, okay, can we build something to just solve this problem that I'm having here right now, right? I've got the skills. I've got friends in my network that I can work with. So I pitched it around to a couple of people. And at a Starbucks, it was quite literally like half a page. And I just sketched out the flow real quickly, very simple thing that I had in mind. So I got a couple engineers together and the designer, and we went to work. So essentially what it does is it allows event attendees to connect seamlessly and share information at networking events. So you scan a QR code when you get to the event. It pulls up a web page. You create an account very quickly, name, bio, contact information, all your LinkedIns, your socials, everything. And then you tap into the event. And immediately you can see a social feed of everybody that was at the event. And in the process of doing that, what we realize is when you go to networking events, you're only going to get to connect with about 3 to 5% of the people there, right? You don't know anybody else that was there, right? So with TapIn now, you can network at the event with confidence that, hey, if I don't get to talk to everybody, tomorrow when I'm hanging out, doing my lunch break or whatnot, I can just scroll the social feed and then read about people that I want to connect with and then just hit them up on different platforms. Where the AI piece comes into play is how we do the searching. So let's say you had a conversation with Lloyd, but you don't remember his name. You're just like, man, he said something about startups and Florida. What we do is we allow you to search with descriptions. So you can say, hey, I spoke to a Black guy, he wore glasses, said something about startups, and we actually go in and actually find the profile for you because we're actually using their avatars to write a description about, this person's facial features. And then we use AI to connect you to potential matches as well that you might want to connect with. So if you're a founder, we want to connect you with developers, your designers. If there's any VCs on the list, then we'll connect you with those people as well. So super simple app. But the pool, Lloyd, talking about that pre-market pool, I mean, we haven't launched yet, and we have organizers that have, are on the waiting list, and they're super excited to use it because it gives them the opportunity to collect data that they couldn't have before, that they can use for brand partnerships and monetization as well.
Fantastic. So where else is JD? Hi, hello. I'm not. So I guess he's saying is that an alternative there?
So I'm not familiar with Hi Hello, but thank you for sharing that. I'm gonna check him out. A digital business card. Somewhat. I think with the digital business cards, Popple, Hi Hello, and all these other ones, it's more about one-to-one connection versus connecting with the group all at once. Because my hypothesis going into building the product was, with a few clicks, connect with everybody. And that's the difference between what we're doing and what Popple and these other card platforms are doing.
Mm-hmm.
Accounting conferences, yes. Listen, Charlene, connect with me. We'll get you on the list. You're in our pre-beta already. There we go.
All
Free for
righty.
the first year.
Free for the first year. That's pretty neat.
Hey, look, man, we know what our growth cycles look like. So yeah, free for the first year.
Yeah, I've been running to a lot of products and doing these beta tests for a whole year. And I said, man, they must be well funded there.
Well, I mean, we're probably just gonna do it for the first 10 organizers, so we can knock the bugs out, smooth out the user experience. But after that, obviously, you guys are charging something.
Yeah. So the Junior's putting your LinkedIn profile out there for people to be able to connect with you. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your 30-day product bootcamp?
Yeah, so similar to a lot of the nuggets that I've dropped here today, it's for founders who are at the idea stage, trying to figure out what to build, how to build it, how to market it, how to tell the story behind it. It's a 30-day camp, cohort based, and what's unique about the program is we actually pair you with a designer. Right?
Oh,
so,
wow! Now you're talking.
Yeah. So. Yep. So week 1, we talk about product, figuring out what to build. That's the confusion stage for most founders. It's the everything and anything. And we come out of that and we sort of streamline you using templates and all these things to focus on one feature. It's an emotional process for the most part, but you get 1 or 2 features max. And then the second and third weeks, we work on the design of this product. And then we launch a simple landing page. So we use AI tools. We have very simple platforms that we use in our sort of 30-day stack. Allows you to launch a very easy landing page, collect emails, waiting list, validation. And then week 4, we help you get a deck together where you can then focus on, okay, we got the story down pat, we got the design, we got the website, we get traction, let's put a deck together. And very, very similar to what we spoke about earlier, Lloyd, is now go get some funding. Now, you might not be able to raise VC with that unless you're a 2-time founder or you just have, some sort of pedigree that they're looking for. But you can go after the grants. You can go after the accelerators. You can go after the pitch competitions. You can go after, there's so much money floating around. You can get that first 20, 30, 40K and then go build the actual product itself. And so that's what we're doing at 30 days.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. Yeah. When you got that good foundation, you can get into a lot of these programs, and there's too many programs, to even take advantage of. So that's why we kind of curate. We started curating opportunities for founders, and just for that purpose.
I'm gonna plug my friend's platform in here, Mogul Millennial. You ever heard of Mogul?
I believe I have, but I'm not really familiar with
Okay,
it.
so basically she started off as a newsletter, longtime friend, and transitioned into a startup funding marketplace, primarily for Black founders. So she has a team, and they basically scrape the entire web looking for grants, accelerators, funding programs for Black founders. And she's been able to get funding for tons and tons of startups. I'm going to drop it in the chat. Yeah. Use this resource. It's really neat. I worked with her and getting the platform up. It's an amazing way to look for grants and accelerator programs and stuff like that. So please check it out.
Yeah, there's no shortage of stuff like that, opportunities for founders. But the bottom line is that if you don't get that foundation, you're not going to be able to answer the questions that are on the application. Yeah. And that's what the dilemma is you have to have that good foundation. and you have to have the knowledge to know what they're even asking you, in order to do that. There's no shortage.
What also, like, another thing that I've noticed over time is that even before you get to the traction slides of your deck and the business model and all this stuff, you can win people over with a good opening of a problem statement and a solution. And if it's, look, the truth is we're emotional beings, right? If I can't connect with your story and your startup emotionally, I don't care, right? For example, with TapIn, still polishing this, but it's like, hey, you ever gone to a networking event and you only got to talk to 3 or 4 people and you're wondering who the hell was also here? All these other people, who were those? You're like, yeah, man, like I didn't get to talk to so many other people I wanted to talk to. That's an emotional thing. You can connect with people on that. So between that problem and that solution slide, you probably hooked them already, right? So like that's the part you should work on.
Yeah, and that's what we actually, the business model story pitch, that is exactly what the format is. So you're literally preaching everything that Ash have in that 30-day training program. You don't realize you're literally preaching everything.
Well, you see, the funny thing is, I was telling, who's that saying? It's like a lot of these frameworks, Adrian doesn't know them. I can't tell you if they have a name, but I've been in the field building for 10 years, and intuitively we know what to do, right? We practice this stuff.
Yep, and most of the people that's won money on our demo days, I would say over 90% of them, they start off with that story that draws the audience in, and then the judges in. And I went to a $100,000 pitch competition, a couple months ago, and the guy who won, he told us crazy story. and people bought it, and
they gotta buy it, man. They gotta buy it.
You're
a salesman. You gotta sell it.
But and that's even with it's you're right, the brain definitely works on that model. We didn't get a chance, Adrian, but I do want to take a minute here and say, like, when you were high school or whatever, did you envision yourself as being a product person?
It's funny. I've been thinking about where this came from, and I last year I finally figured it out.
Okay.
And it was, so my idol is Leonardo da Vinci.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you can see behind me, but my apartment is essentially a studio. I paint almost every day.
Wow. Okay.
And when I was about 10 or 11, I came across the sketches that he had done. Not the real sketches, because obviously if I had that lying around the house, then I must have been wealthy. But I came across a book, and it had a lot of the sketches that he had done. And it just blew my mind how, this guy was back in the 1500s doing this so far ahead of his time. And he was thinking about weapons and tanks, and he was doing human anatomy. And I just really got fascinated with the idea of building things. I was really good at math. I actually used to do math for fun, right? I would come home and do problems. It was almost like a challenge for me. And so once I saw that, and I was like, it actually started off by me saying, I want to be an inventor, right? Yeah. Which then drove me to actually get my engineering degree and start building physical products. And eventually I did. I actually invented a medical device about 7 years ago. And I built the prototype. And so for me, the transition to product was almost something that was just natural, right? I've always been thinking about building stuff. And earlier, I think we were talking about this, and I was like, I think, I finally achieved something, which was like, not at the Da Vinci level, but it's like, okay, we've gone from like, hey, we can design engines and build that, and we can design social networks. That's like the two extremes of physical and digital products. So that's kind of where the inception was, and what drives me till this day is that, we can create anything we want. Anybody can create it, right? As long as you understand the process that goes into it, you can build anything, really.
Yeah. And so that's a nugget right there. And so what we try to get people to founders to understand, building a startup or building a product is a process. If you can understand the process, you can, that's what counts. And yeah, that's exactly what counts. And I'll tell the story over and over again so people can really get the message. So I worked in the Air Force Research Lab most of my career, and almost everything project we did had never been done before. And we didn't even know if it was possible or not. But what we did, we followed that methodology for doing that research. And we always learned something, whether the thing was successful or not. And that's the same way it is with a startup. There is a methodology, and we call it the Lean Startup methodology. And the platform we invite all founders to use, and we give them an account on it for free, that you can learn this methodology and actually move forward. And
yeah, my very first engineering manager used to always say, 80% of a solution is a standard. And then you get 20% creativity. Founders tend to not want to work within, structured frameworks, but it really does work. You can still be creative within that structure, but sometimes it's just best to follow the process. People get excited, jump ahead. It's like, let's talk about branding. It's like, whoa, we don't have a problem statement yet.
Yeah. I had a text conversation with the founder yesterday, I believe it was, and so she was saying this lean startup stuff is kind of boring, and she's got all these good ideas and these good products, and I said, you want to keep continuing on the path on something that you think will work, or you want to follow a process that's proven to work. And so I think the message finally got through. People want you to tell your story, picture your business model, and so they don't want to be out there spinning their wheels trying to support something that's not even viable. But if they don't understand how you plan to make money with it, they can't help you. They don't know how to help you.
Yeah. I mean, I like Y Combinator's. They have a lot of mental models that they like to promote. And the one that I really like the most is build product, talk to customers, iterate. If you forget anything else, is like and not talking to customers means acquiring them in the process. Build product, get customers, listen to them. That's really it, if you think about it.
Fantastic. So any other product information or thing you want to share before we sign off here?
Well, my favorite is always keep it simple. You always have to think about product. As a founder, you're looking over the designs for months. All the buttons are, all the widgets are hiding. For somebody coming in for the first time, you don't want them to have this cockpit effect where you sort of giving them an aircraft carrier to fly. It should always be simple, right? For MVPs and anything at that stage, you're looking at about 3 to 4 screens, a few buttons maximum, one key action, right? If you can get to product market fit with just that, right? Once you start adding features, then you get feature rich, which requires people to understand the platform, how it works. And usually that's when people start churning really hard. So if you want to build something new on top of what you already have, you should really consider the fact that, should I build something new or should I replace the old thing? And if the answer is I need to build something new, then I would say go ahead and rip the old thing out right now before you build something new, so you don't have more features stacking up even before you get to product market fit yet.
Thanks for that nugget. And so definitely let us know how we can refer people to your 30-day product boot camp, because I think it's definitely is a good strategy to do, and because we want to connect people to programs that can kind of move them forward a lot faster. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I'll be happy to come up at some point. I've never been up to Pensacola before. check out what you guys are doing. Maybe we can have like a fireside or a workshop or something. We can definitely talk
Yeah.
about that.
Well, so like we definitely got some slots if you want to come up. If you're available on the 19th of April, we're just going to do a networking thing that day. Then on Saturday, we're going to have the full Black Founders Innovation Summit. So we're going to have a panel of successful founders in the afternoon. You can welcome to participate on that, because building product, that's the number one thing you need to know how to do, so so we definitely would love to have you on that panel. But yeah, just take a look at your schedule and see if you're available. But we definitely want to connect you, because you got some unique experience and valuable experience, and that product thing, it's the most important thing when you're kind of building something. you need to know what you're doing there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always amazed with the ideas. To me, it's like every time I hear, even listening to watching the video that you wrote before we came on, the gentleman working on the app, sort of the webflow for music for musicians and Calendly for musicians. I was just like, whoa, okay, that's a nice little niche product there that you can go deeper with. So I'm always excited to talk products. So if anybody has something they want to chat about, you can go to my personal website. I think they already dropped it in the chat.
Yeah.
And just grab some free time to chat. I'm always happy to help out.
Fantastic, Adrian. We really appreciate that. And so, folks, we look forward to getting you all for next week. I haven't booked the founder for next week, but I'm going to try to see if the Make startup people are there. I had a meeting with them today and a couple of brothers, and man, they're all into the AI stuff. And so, but I just like the idea, people like you, me, and other people sharing the message of what the opportunity really is, because we can't really do it by ourselves. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So if you want to hang on a second, bye-bye, everyone. We'll see you all next week. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.